Country Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. It is Friday, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. And I am Scott, your host, and a man who is currently working on his next album, which I now call Atmospheric River of Love. It's going to be a fantastic album. It's going to have a lot of special guests on it. It's going to be great. It's because of the river, the Pineapple Express, which is now called the Atmospheric River. What it means is a lot of rain in Southern California, which makes everybody freak out. And with me in the booth is a guy who saves everything for his solo album, just trying to stay dry out there, is Paul B. What's up, Paul?
Hey.
Are you staying dry down at Intertalk Center?
Yeah, I managed to stay dry this week. Yesterday was funny. It was literally just like misting and drizzling outside, and there are all these like flash flood warnings, and like my phone is like going off with alerts. I'm like, it's like literally misting. San Diego, like get a grip.
Get a grip. Moving forward past the rain. So who am I? I am a marketing person who runs a marketing firm up here in Orange County. And if you want to reach me, the best way to do it is to send an email to scott@robertsoncom.com, 2 M's like communication, or my website, which is robertsoncom.com, and also social media, as will come as no surprise, at robertsoncom, 2 M's like communication, on Twitter, and then facebook.com/robertsoncom. Very easy to find me out there in the world. And I'm really excited. You're super smart because you're tuned into episode 113 of The Big Show. And we're going to talk about, I call this episode The Power Disc, and we're going to talk about the disc method. And joining me today is a great guy, Scott Bailey, a sales professional and Sandler Sales Mastery subject matter expert. This guy has facilitated more than 250 Sandler Two-Day Boot Camps. He's taught tons of people, tons of organizations the right way to sell things, the right way to communicate things, and get things sold, for the past 25 years. So welcome to the program, Scott Bailey. How you doing today?
Well, Scott, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate that. I'm also a lifelong learner. I don't admit to knowing everything about sales, but the beautiful thing is we can always continue to learn, and that's what we're proud of here at Sandler. So it's there's no finish line to learning, right, Scott? No finish line.
Yeah, no finish line. I love that, and yeah, obviously that's what makes you great at what you do. So we'll just jump right in here and just start. So tell the audience here, what is DISC?
Well, that's a great question. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's DISC, not DISK, and the DISC profile was invented by a man named William Marston. He was born in the late 1890s and was a psychologist, a Harvard-educated psychologist who discovered these principles. And you may, if you've taken any kind of psychology in college, Psych 101, maybe Psych 102, you probably remember Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung. So what Marston did was expand on Jung's, Carl Jung, Jung, work on introversion, extroversion, and those scales of emotional thinking being, which emerged into something called the Myers-Briggs assessment. Many of you have heard of that. And what DISC measures is, it's not a personality profile. A lot of people call it, hey, it's a personality. We are not measuring personality. We're measuring behavior. So the correct thing to call is a behavioral style analysis. And the best explanation I ever got was from a man named Bill Bonstetter, who was very instrumental in also development of the DISC over in Scottsdale, Arizona, a company called PTI, who was our first distributor of DISC. And he said, think of a bicycle. Okay, if you all got a bicycle pictured in your mind, you got two wheels, you got a back wheel, right? That's where the propulsion comes from. And what's the front wheel for? It's for steering. So what DISC measures is the steering. It measures how you go about doing what you do. The back wheel measures your drive, your ambition, and more your personality. It doesn't measure your skills. Neither of these the tests measure skills. But what we're measuring is how we go about doing what we do. And as you might imagine, if you got a significant other that does some things differently than you do, you know what I'm talking about. And that's the things that we're looking for here. And the reason we do it is that good salespeople are good communicators. And the DISC assessment is not just for salespeople. Obviously, salespeople are always looking for an edge in communicating or any kind of tip or something that'll get them ahead of the competitor. But anything you could do to enhance communication is generally good for you as a salesperson. Interesting sideline on Marston is that he was an early champion of women's rights and actually developed the character Wonder Woman, because he felt like when Superman came out, they needed a counterpart of that. So, yeah, along with somebody else, he did it under a pseudonym. And he was also an early inventor of the lie detector. So he was quite a character. Marston died he only lived to be about 53, died of skin cancer in the 1950s. So he's quite a history. And, interesting guy. And so the DISC profile was designed about 90 years ago, and the principles of DIS and C are what we're going to be talking about here for a balance of this segment. So,
fantastic. Well, that's a great overview. Why don't you give us an kind of a look at what the various languages are? These big letters stand for.
Well, most people start with D. That's kind of traditional thing. The D stands for dominant, or the D style. And people that are high Ds, that would be somebody like myself, and I think you've got a little bit of D in you as well, Scott, would be somebody who is bottom line oriented, direct, decision maker. They're decisive, they're tough, they're impatient, strong-willed, competitive, these kind of characteristics. And if I were to ask you to think of somebody in the public eye who stands out like that, most people would say our current sitting president, right? So,
yeah,
these are people you don't want to waste their time. I can't imagine going in and seeing our president on a sales call and not having knowing what to do, because you're going to get fired in 3 seconds if not prepared. So obviously what we're looking for are different ways to sell the different styles. And the trick is that when you're on a sales call, anybody that's been in sales or even on a date or something, you've probably experienced the feeling when you instantly clicked with somebody else. It was instant rapport. And then maybe somebody else, it wasn't the same. My guess is you probably had the same behavioral style analysis. You may be both Ds or you're both Is. So if we again, the trick is that we have a natural style and an adaptive style who we need to flex to. So that a high D, a dominant style, is going to struggle with somebody that can't make decisions very quickly. Ds make decisions very quickly. They bottom line oriented, these kind of things. And if we were to, we mentioned our current president, Donald Trump, think of Rush Limbaugh, think of Dr. Phil, right?
Yeah,
think of Judge Judy, right? These are extreme examples of your high D. In the animal kingdom, these would be your tigers, your lions. With birds, it'd be your eagles. Kind of give you a flavor of what we do here. Okay. So, we want to be direct with these people. We want to ensure that they win, right? It's what's in it for them. That's really what it is. It's not going to be a collaborative thing. These are people that tend to make decisions quickly. Personally, the kind of people I like to sell to, because as a high D, it's really easy. And I appreciate somebody who can make a decision quickly. I like to walk in on a sales call and be walking out in under an hour with a decision. The decision is either you're cutting me a check or you're not. No wishy-washy. For me, that's the easiest person for me to sell to. Okay? So these are high Ds. And these are people, could you think of what kind of occupations these people would flow to? What kind of occupations would those people want to be in?
Well, it's got to be like
CEOs.
CEO, yeah. C-suite, right? A lot of your C-suite people probably.
But it's a mistake to think that only Ds can be in the C-suite. That is a mistake. Any of the D style, any of the DISC styles can do any position. It's not necessarily a predictor of how good you can, because we're not looking at skills. We're just looking at where they gravitate to. So that's your high D. That's your high dominant, and D stands for dominant. Moving along, you have your influencers. These are the I's. These are extreme extroverts. These are your people-oriented people. These are people that you need to allow time to socialize with. A lot of your sales calls going to spend time talking about their vacation. And, oh, my God, if you could find some, oh, boy, how about this weather? Oh, but I own a place in Mammoth. Oh, so do I, right? Oh, we're going to go skiing this week. And all of a sudden, you got a high level of rapport. So they're going to want to spend a lot of time talking about social stuff. If you look back, and again, they're friendly people. They like to have fun. They might drive kind of a flashy car. Their office is going to be enlivened with a lot of things, maybe music going on. You want to show enthusiasm with these people. You want to smile. You want to be chatty. Let them talk. You don't want to focus on details. This is where the classic idea of a salesperson, they are notorious for not following through on details. People, you've probably heard that over and over again. He's a great salesperson, but damn, I can't get him to fill out his expense account, right? Classic salesperson.
Yeah, no doubt.
They don't like details. They don't like details. So I believe that our past president, Bill Clinton, was a high I. The word was, I never met him, but that he could charm anybody. He was just a very likable person. Leaving politics out of it, you probably would like him very much. And I think the same would be said for Barack Obama, a very fun-loving, likable person. Ellen DeGeneres would be an example of somebody I would say is very, very nice and just draws people into them. That's your classic I kind of style. Nice. Animals, cool. These would be, think of a Labrador Retriever, right? Loves to be around people. How about a dolphin, right? You could picture the dog. What was that show, Flipper? Right, just very extroverted, very wanting to. Yeah. So high I's tend to gravitate towards sales. It doesn't mean that in order to be a salesperson, you have to be a high I. It just means that that's what they like to do because they love people. When you hear somebody say that's a born natural salesperson, which by the way there is no such thing, but that means that somebody's very talkative. That just means they're very talkative, which, if you follow the Sandler selling system, being very talkative is not always an advantage.
Well, so if you want to sell to either Bill Clinton or a dolphin, you need to know about I. It's really important.
You want to find something in common. If I were to sell to Bill Clinton, what do I know about Bill Clinton? I want to find something in common. I happen to know that he's a golfer. I'm a golfer. We'd be starting off talking about golf. I know that for a fact. Or Obama, for that matter. They're golfers. We'd be talking about that.
Common
We're
interest
going to have those kind of
and social. Very social, yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
what's the
bird,
S?
A bird, this would, going back to the eyes, this would be your parrots, right? Parrot would be a high I. They're in a big flock and they're squawking, or they're all squawking at the same time. These are your high I's. Okay. Now your S's, by the way, did I mention I stands for influencers? Okay. So we've been to the D, which is dominant. I's influencers. Your S stands for steady or stable. Either one is fine. These are the people that are kind of hard to pick out because they blend in. They like to be team players. They often gravitate towards positions like they're nurses, they're firemen, they're police officers, they're teachers. They like to be part of a team. They don't like to be singled out. They tend to be a little bit introverted. They're calm and relaxed. They're never in a hurry, and they don't like risk. And if you're trying to get an S to make a decision, good luck, because they need to commiserate. They got to meet with the committee. They like to push the risk out. Now the S's are great because you got to have S's. These are the worker bees of all the companies. These are the backbone of every company. These are the people that come into work on time and they leave on time, but they get the job done with very little complaints. But selling to S's, I mean, my God, it's going to be like, oh, I've got to run it by the committee. Oh my goodness. Now, when you think of these individuals, a little harder to pick out because they don't stick out like the D's and the I's. So the S's are going to be, I'm thinking, do you remember Jimmy Carter? He was an S, very steady, stable, calm. Andy Griffith, right? Andy Griffith would have been an S. Trying to think who else would be S's here. Just calm, kind of quiet people. Yeah.
We got about a minute. We got about a minute 30 in this segment, so let's jump to the C if you don't mind.
The C is your compliance. These are people that gravitate towards positions. They three things: details. They have to have a set of rules, not the rules that they make like the D's, but the rules given to them. And they make great accountants, engineers, and pilots because they just follow the frickin' rules. An example of a high D would be, or a high C would be Mr. Spock, right? the character Mr. Spock.
Oh, yeah.
Felix Unger of The Odd Couple, Mr. Spock, Mr. Detail kind of guy. Got to have everything in line. My dad is a classic C. I remember he used to complain because he'd be going the speed limit and people be flipping him off because they're trying to get around him, but he would never exceed the speed limit. Classic case of road rage is a high D late for an appointment behind a high C who will not speed up. Okay. But these are the people that are going to run the company. You got to have the bookkeeper. You got to have somebody's got to pay attention to the details. The D's are out there knocking walls down, and the C's are out there making the assessment for what's this going to cost us to fix it, right? So in the animal kingdom, these are your raccoons and your owls. Think of an owl, right?
Nice. So about 10 seconds. Yeah.
Classic confrontation. The high I salesperson selling to the accountant high C. Salesperson thinks the accountant's flaky. The accountant thinks the salesperson is
cool. I got to cut you off there for a second, right. Scott. We're at the end of this segment, but you guys are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media. Come on back. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing. And before we get out of here today, Scott's going to give you some great sales tips. We'll see you in a few.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody, it is Friday, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk, and I'm Scott, your host. Hanging with me today is Scott Bailey, Sandler trainer, master sales trainer, and Scott's been sharing a lot of information about the DISC method, understand the different, behavior types that are out there. And at the break, Scott was telling us about the Beatles. Why don't you do that Beatles thing real quick before we get into winning and losing, Scott? That was interesting.
If you're familiar with who the Beatles were, and I ask you to name them, almost 99% of the time people go John, Paul, George, Ringo. In that order, that's your D, I, S, and C. John was the leader. Paul was kind of the cute one, the one everybody gravitated to. George was the quiet one, and Ringo kept time and kept it all together. So that's your DISC. John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Help you figure that out.
Nice. For all the bands that are listening to us, you can start to go through it and decide which of your band members, which of your band members fit these various behavior types. Actually, that could be pretty useful, right? Bands notoriously have politics and break up, but as you just mentioned, it takes a lot of different types of personality types to make a band sometimes. So it is kind of that's kind of interesting, right?
I didn't get a chance to recommend a book on disc. If I have a chance to do that now, it's available on Amazon. It's called Taking Flight. Taking Flight.
Okay. All right.
It's by Rosenberg and Silvert, like silver with a T. And it's a story of a forest full of different types of birds. You have your eagles, you have your parrots, you have your doves, and you have your owls, and how they all have to fit together and do their job to have an ecosystem. So you can't say that the eagles are better than the owls. They all perform a function to make the forest work. It's one of those books you could read in an hour and a half, 2 hours on an airplane flight, and you'll keep it forever. It's a wonderful reference on disc. Really helps explain it in the layman's terms. So Taking Flight. Okay.
Taking Flight. Everybody take note of that and check that out. That sounds really interesting. Well, let's dig into who's winning and losing this week. So basically, Scott's going to stay with us and join us on the commentary here as we look into the wonderful world of business and marketing and see who's doing good stuff and who's stepping in it this week. Toys R Us, which obviously has closed all of its U.S. stores, is coming back. Basically a new company, True Kids Brands, is now the parent company of Toys R Us, and they are trying to bring Toys R Us back in a completely, what they say in the press release, a completely new and reimagined way. So the U.S. doesn't have to go through another holiday without these beloved brands, says the new president and CEO in a press release. The company also said it plans to launch in the press release a newly imagined omni-channel retail experience, which is not defined in any way, shape, or form, but that's kind of interesting. So they're working on this. So first of all, I got to say, that's definitely winning. I think that's cool that they're bringing it back. I think there's not a lot of details right now. A lot of people who follow retail closely know that retail is not doing great because of our propensity to want the convenience of buying things online and brick and mortar retail, or particular big chain stores and large footprint operations that have a lot of cost, have a decided disadvantage against online retailers and that kind of thing. And obviously that's a subject that we've talked about quite frequently on the program here. But I think it's safe to say that this is probably a good thing that True Kids is trying to bring back the Toys R Us brand and experience in some way. Scott, what do you think about that? What do you think about Toys R Us coming back?
Well, as a father whose daughter will be turning 37 next month, I remember when she was a little girl and we had to go to Toys R Us. I hated it. The store was always busy and it was messy, and that was your only option. And then when your Amazons came out, and the whole thing, they've traded that experience into something that's convenient, right? It is so damn convenient to buy something on the internet, but it's not fun. What these stores need to do, if they could find some way to draw the family in and make it a fun experience, they're not going to get the convenience of the internet, so they have to trade it off. How has Disneyland been able to stay open throughout this crisis? You can't go to Disneyland on the internet. You have to make it a fun experience. However, they're going to do that. I typically, when I rarely go into a retail stores anymore. If I know what I'm wanting, I always go to usually Amazon. I'm a big Amazon Prime guy, so I just say you got to make it fun. You got to bring fun back. It wasn't ever there before. Fighting the traffic, it was never fun. Never fun.
Well, and on that note, Payless Shoe Source has been sort of in trouble for a good long time now, and they announced this week that they are planning to close all of their remaining 2,300 stores when they file for bankruptcy later this month, according to Reuters. So this is the second time, actually, that the footwear retailer is going down the bankruptcy road, and of course, all the news media are jumping on there saying this is more of the retail apocalypse as more brick and mortar stores either seek bankruptcy protection or go out of business completely. And what's fascinating to me about the retail apocalypse is you just don't have to look too much. Not if every retail store was going out of business, then you could say, yeah, that's true. But there are some that are killing it. There are some retail stores that are absolutely killing it. The Apple Store's revenue, if you pay attention to Apple's latest earnings, is through the roof. So you have to kind of say in what model. I mean, I don't think you can paint it in those broad brushstrokes and say that all retail is, dying and dying forever, because there are plenty that are doing just fine. I don't know. I think
when I'm thinking of an Apple store, because I have an iPhone, they're fun stores to go into. They're a little busy and a little bit loud, but every time I get waited on by one of the millennials in there, I end up learning a lot. They're very well trained people, and they know how to, and you pay a lot of money for their stuff. I didn't see a lot of discounts the last time I went in there. Yeah. Pretty much pay top shelf price. So we're able to get those high margins and get you to walk in the store at the same time.
It's true. It's true. Well, it's something to keep watching. Both of those are, obviously, and Toys R Us is probably winning. Payless is definitely losing. And we'll see if they can get themselves resurrected as they go through their second round in bankruptcy court. But it looks like they're going to be closing quite a lot of Payless shoe stores around the country coming up. In other news, cows. So cows are getting their own Tinder-style dating app for breeding. Cows and bulls that are searching for love, or the farmers that own them and they're searching for love, now have a mobile app to help the breeders. A UK farming startup introduced a Tinder-style app called Tutter that lets farmers find breeding matches by viewing pictures of the cattle with the details of the cow's age and location and owner. Users hear a mooing sound as they swipe right to show they're interested, or left to reject the possible matches of the cattle. So that's a thing that happened, and that's a real thing. Do we live in a world where we need to have a mobile app for cow breeding? I mean, I guess that could be an entire show, honestly. But what do you think about the Tinder for cows, Scott? What do you think of that?
Well, as somebody who's single and I spent a year on these online dating accounts, these apps, I met a couple of people that should have been on the cow app, I think.
Oh, dude!
But an app is just another. It's going to have an app. It's just going to have an app. I think apps are great. And when I got my new iPhone, I think I have maybe one or two apps on there, and it's just if there's an app, if I can order an airline ticket, I say, what the hell? It's a very specialized app. What you're telling me is new. I can't imagine this, but it's everywhere. Apps are everywhere. It's just absolutely everything. I think it's terrific. Yeah,
dude, cows. Farmers looking for cows for their cattle, and there you go. I think we'll put it in. We'll just put a question mark over that one. I don't even know if that's winning or losing or what. That's just weird. Here's one that we can definitely agree on. The Jose Cuervo has announced the Jose Cuervo Express. It is a train in Mexico that is an all-you-can-drink tequila train. So if you like tequila, Mexico is offering an all-you-can-drink tequila train called the Jose Cuervo Express. Travel Pirates, a blog that offers travel experiences, calls it a luxurious train experience for lovers of tequila in all its forms. Now, here's where the details get fun. They show that you have 3 ticket levels. All of them include a round-trip train ride from Guadalajara to Tequila, an open tequila bar, and with an open tequila bar and snacks on the train, an expert tequila tasting, a tour of the Cuervo distillery, and a Mexican cultural show. Guadalajara to Tequila, Mexico. Pricing starting at $111. And would you take someone on the Jose Cuervo Express there, Scott? What do you think?
Probably not. It just sounds. Who's going to remember anything, right? Right. Yeah, after a couple of tequila, you're not even going to remember a damn thing about it. You're not going to remember the tour, especially if it's going to come at the end of it. But I do appreciate good tequila. I'm not sure what kind of tequila they're offering here. If it's just that off the shelf stuff that you make margaritas with, or some really good level tequila. I'm not really sure what it is, but
yeah.
Hey, sure, why not? Sounds more like something for college kids, though, for me, than me.
Yeah, exactly. What's in Guadalajara?
Sounds loud and noisy. Yeah.
Exactly. But Guadalajara, so you got to get down to Guadalajara, and then you're taking the train, around, and you're taking a tour
tequila,
of the distillery. Yeah, to tequila.
The tour you don't.
Oh, very nice. Well, cool. We'll put that in winning. I think that's a winner. You know, here's one that's interesting. A controversial new ranking of America's best French fries is really causing quite a lot of stir on the web this week. The LA Times just released a very thorough chart which classifies fry favorites from the nation's biggest chain like McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Shake Shack, Arby's, that kind of stuff. And then lots of people from Chick-fil-A, basically they're very low on the list, and lots of people say Chick-fil-A's fries are great, that kind of thing. But this is interesting. So the things that we will argue about in the United States of America there's no limit. So number one, according to the list, was Five Guys. These guys, those French fries are fried in peanut oil, which allows the potato's true flavor to shine. Number two was McDonald's, a very close call, but some of the judges said McDonald's fries lose their texture too quickly. Number three on the list was Del Taco. No way. Those are like Ore-Ida frozen crinkle cut fries. I mean, I got to weigh in there. Del Taco is not known for its fries, nor are they any good.
Who goes to Del Taco for fries? Right?
Apparently, somebody that voted.
I want some fries. I'm going to Del Taco. No, I don't think so.
And In-N-Out is not on the list. And I thought In-N-Out is pretty good fries. Don't they cut up the potatoes like in the drive-through window? It's like super.
They're
fresh,
made on the spot. Yeah, they have a machine
right
that cuts
there.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's kind of strange. The Five Guys thing is interesting because they're really greasy, right? You go to Five Guys. First of all, Five Guys is a really expensive restaurant. I mean, you're not getting out of there for less than like $13-$14 for a combo, and then the bag is like notoriously like dripping with grease. You go to Five Guys.
You know why they use peanut oil, right? There's a difference, peanut oil and the other kinds of like safflower. You know what the difference is, right? I'm being serious here. You know what the difference is?
I probably don't know. I don't.
Peanut oil is the only, you can get it very, very hot before it smokes. It has a high smoking point. So something about you can make it hotter. And I think maybe the fries cook faster and therefore they come out crispier. That's the trick with peanut oil, I think. That's what I know about it. And
do you like Five Guys? Do you think they're the best fries?
I don't eat a lot of fast food, but I'll take your word for it. I just typically don't go to those kinds of places. I'm no connoisseur on fries, but I do like to cook, by the way. So I have a fryer at home, and you buy peanut oil, even though it's more expensive. It's more expensive than regular oil because it lasts longer and you can get the temperature hotter. It's just kind of a little cooking tip. Those of you who are chefs.
Well, very nice. But so I think we can agree that no matter who you're going to put on this list, nobody's going to agree, right? And that's always kind of what's fascinating about this. You're going to get and people are upset. I mean, there is quite a lot of the LA Times put this out and just created quite a stir, which is why they put it out, of course. And but Del Taco being number 3, that's nuts. To me, that's just there are
that's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah, there are 20 places that make fries that should be on the list before Del Taco.
I'm with you, man, 100%.
That doesn't make sense at all. Well, cool. Well, let's see who else we got.
Are you familiar with this new movement that women are having called Galentine's Day as opposed to Valentine's Day? Are you familiar with that? What's going on with that?
No, but it sounds like there's no men involved.
It's taking off. So they have these sayings that these women who are many of them are single, they're just ditching the whole idea of Valentine's Day, and they have women that all get together and celebrate Galentine's Day. And one of the sayings is fries, not guys. Fries, not guys. So they serve fries at these things because they don't have boyfriends. So celebrating brings single women. Fries, not guys. Yeah, more power.
Hey, more. Whatever. Whatever floats your boat, man. That's what I say. I don't know. I didn't hear about Galentine's Day, but it sounds like there'd be a lot of anger in the room. Like, what if you accidentally, you're a guy, and you accidentally walked into Galentine's Day? Your ass is grass.
You would never do that.
Right?
You would never.
I mean,
you'd be If your girlfriend or wife are having one of those things, that's why they have golf, Scott, to get out of the house. Men should not be within 500 yards of those things. No way.
I do, man. But I don't know about that. There seems to be like there would be a lot of like Sarah McLachlan songs played, through that, and just a lot of like angry, ironic, this is how this guy, did me wrong, kind of songs.
I'm not making this up. To prove I'm not making, I'm going to text you an article in the Wall Street Journal that was just in the paper. I think it was Monday or Tuesday of this week. I'll send it. You could read the whole thing on it, and how retailers are crushing it. Appealing to women that want to have a Valentine's Day and all the props that they have these parties. That's another example of retail. I'll send it to you. Yeah,
please do. And that's going to do it for Winning and Losing, folks. Right now, you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media. Come on back. Scott Bailey is going to give us his top 5 sales tips. Stick around for that. We'll see you in a few.
I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on InterTalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host. Back here in segment 3 with Scott Bailey. We just did Winning and Losing. Paul, jump in here. What did you like anything from Winning and Losing this week? What did you like?
I like fries made in peanut oil. What can I say?
You like the Five Guys, do you?
Yeah,
nice.
I do.
What do you think about Del Taco? Now, come on, Del Taco.
I've never been
fries?
there. I mean, I've never even been there for tacos, so I can't imagine I'd go there for fries.
They certainly shouldn't be number 3 on the list.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Just so you know, I have to say something nice about Del Taco. We actually train their franchisee salespeople, so they're great people. Okay,
they're great people.
Sandler client.
They just shouldn't be number 3 on the fry list. You should tell them that.
I don't think they meant to be there. I think they'd rather be better known for their burritos and tacos for sure.
Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. Well, folks, you are here on episode 113 of The Big Show, and we have been talking about the DISC method. We've been talking about sales. And Master Sales Trainer Scott Bailey's here with us on the air. He's going to give us his top 5 sales tips. And I've got a note here that these tips all assume a face-to-face sales call with a new prospect, like in his or her office. So this is really kind of interpersonal selling. You're one-on-one with somebody. All right, Scott, give us your first tip.
Well, so I get a lead, for example, somebody goes on my website and they type in that they're interested in Sandler training. I call them up. Before I do that, and, my goal is maybe to get in front of them, right, get invited out to their office, and let's find out that I do a little qualifying on the phone. Before I do any of that stuff, before I even call them, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and learn a little bit about them, right? The tool is right there. Virtually everybody in business has a LinkedIn account. If they don't have one, maybe you don't want to call them, right? And learn something about them. If you could find out, and it's not that hard, if you could find out that there's something that you have in common with them, there's your icebreaker right there. So you found out that my latest prospect, I found out, is born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, like I was. Man, when I brought that up, boy, she was all over that. Or you find out that you went to the same college, or you both play the same sport, or whatever it is. Look at their hobbies and interests at the bottom, and that's a great way to use social media to start the process. By the way, there's an app out now. It's called Crystal Knows, KNOWS, which is a new overlay. It's a filter that you could use with LinkedIn that will actually identify, based upon what somebody says on their LinkedIn profile, if they're a DIS or C. It's really cool. Crystal Knows.
Wow, Crystal Knows. It's fantastic.
Crystal Knows, yeah, and it's available. It will actually help you. Is this person a DI? And I remember using it because my associate Will Christ had this, and a couple of years ago we had a prospect came through as a high C, which is the most difficult person that we sold to, is in a payroll industry. Knowing that when he came in, we were prepared for the detail, and we got him as a client. So those tools are there. Those social media tools are there. So I would say, number one tip is learn about your prospect and use those assets available to you online, the social media resources. Okay, so that's tip number one.
That's fantastic, and people put so much information out on social media too. So it's probably it's probably easier than it certainly used to be to find out even a lot of personal things about people because of the way that people share everything.
And by the way, one of account that I got recently up in Santa Monica, medical software company, there was probably 3 or 4 other Sandler trainers in their marketplace that were closer to them, and they picked me. And I said, "Why'd you pick me?" And the lady said, "It was your LinkedIn profile. What you said in your heading was exactly what we were looking for." So it works both ways. Your prospects are looking at your LinkedIn too. It's working both ways.
Fantastic.
Use the tools. Yeah.
What's your second tip, Scott?
Well, many of us grew up learning about the golden rule, which was do unto others as you would like done to yourself. And that kind of served us well throughout the last century. And the intent of that was to be considerate of others, as you know, right? We all learned the golden rule thing.
Sure.
Well, if you really think about it, the golden rule is inherently selfish. Do unto others as I want done to myself. Who's that about? That's about you. With Sandler, we teach. Think about it. It's contradictory, isn't it?
That's true.
We use the platinum rule. We use the platinum rule here at Sandler, which is do unto others as they want done to themselves.
Oh.
A sales call has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the prospect. And if you're not taking that on, I want you to show up at a sales call like a detective at a crime scene. Your job is to figure out what the truth is. Why did this person bring you into their office? And get through all the smoke and the BS that people initially throw at you, because when they believe that you're a salesperson trying to sell them something, up goes the guard. So you have to have those mechanisms to get through that stuff. So a sales call has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with your prospects. You want to start off the sales call with something that says, "Hey, Scott, why don't you share with me your reasons for inviting me in today? What are the 3 things you'd like to accomplish in our meeting today?" That kind of thing. So, you're not there to spray and pray, right? Spraying with information and pray they buy from you. How smart you are, you're there for them. So follow the platinum rule. Do unto others as they want done to themselves.
And just to extend that into extend that into marketing a bit, that's one of the reasons why I'm so big on making sure your messaging of a company, your marketing messaging is all about them and all about their deep needs. And yet 9 times out of 10, when I run into a company, they're talking about themselves. They're talking about themselves and how great they are and how long they've been in business and how they've got a breakthrough end-to-end custom solution, BS. And the first question I ask them, I say, I can't even find your audience's needs, even their superficial surface level needs, in your messaging. So it's like, so I love what you're saying. The fact that you're making everything all about the audience, and yet, as easy as that is to say, there are people that violate that rule daily, and then wonder why they're not getting the result.
And the reason is because they're going in there and they have to make the sale because they're starving for money. There's so much pressure because there's money on the line. And if I don't close you today, I'm going to be in trouble with my boss, or I need the money. You have to approach the sale like you don't need the money, because prospects have a way of smoking that out. It's like the person who communicates to the dog that it's afraid of it. The dog's going to growl at you. You have to come in, and you've been through our training. We go in with the winning lottery ticket in our pocket always.
Right on.
I've got $100 million lottery ticket I'm going to cash after the sales call. That helps me to get through the sales call without feeling pressure. If you're feeling pressure on a sales call, stop it. You should not feel pressure. You should allow the buyer to buy and not pressure them to do it. The buyer, if you're feeling pressure, the buyer's feeling pressure.
Very, very important. And marketers extend that out into your messaging work, which sets the stage for sales teams to come in with their interpersonal style and close the deal, make it and connect those things. That's really important. Well, what's your third tip, Scott?
Well, the gem of the Sandler selling system is something, as you may recall, we call an upfront contract. If you remember that, the upfront contract serves a place in the sales process that nobody else teaches. Basically states that yourself, between you and your prospect, you set aside some guidelines. You have a rule book of which you both agree to, rather than to go in and what we call the show up and throw up method, right? Prospect agrees to see you. You show up and you give them this big pitch, and then you try to close them, and then you find out that the think it over they gave you was really a no. What we want to do is craft an upfront contract, and I could give the audience here a little acronym. Since we're talking about Mexican food with Del Taco, it's the TACO acronym. TAQO, not CATO. And it kind of goes like this. The T stands for thank them for inviting you in today, or thank them for coming by your office, right? That's the T. The A stands for find out what their agenda is. And that's the platinum rule. Hey, Scott, thank you for inviting me in today. What are the 3 reasons you'd like? Imagine our meeting were over. What are the 3 things you'd like to get out of our meeting? So it's about them. The Q stands for questions. I'm going to need to ask you some questions about our meeting today. The issues that you're going to give me, in order to understand them, I'm going to need to ask you some tough questions. I also know you have some questions you want to ask of me, and I'm more than happy to answer them. The O stands for outcome. So in the first 5 minutes, we're going to talk about the outcome of the sales call rather than wait. So what Sandler does, it flips everything on its ear. So we're going to talk about the outcome at the beginning of the sales call. When our hour is up, Scott, we can be in one of 2 places. We could determine we're absolutely not a fit for each other. And I could leave, you could tell me no, I could tell you no, and we could part friends and not do business. Could we at least agree that we're not a fit for each other? What that does is takes all the pressure off of it, because you're basically giving the prospect permission to tell you no, which they always had, but we never gave it to them. And when you don't get permission to get a no, you can end up with a think it over, which is a slow no. As we all know, a think it over is 93% or no's. It's just a nice way of getting rid of you. So go for the no. Yeah. This is another reason we want to have the winning lottery ticket in our pocket. So again, it's the TAQO. Thanks, agenda, questions, outcome. It's a great way to start the sales call with the taco rule. First course is tacos. Okay.
Nice. And bring in tacos. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to. What's yeah, maybe so. What's your 4th tip, Scott?
Well, kind of drilling down on that Q thing is get those permissions to ask questions. Sometimes, depending upon what you're selling, you're going to need to ask questions that might make the prospect uncomfortable, because what we have to do is expose their real reasons for buying. The real reasons for buying is always emotional. It's never intellectual. And I've coached a lot of high-end, let's say, estate planning attorneys or financial planners. These are people, in order to bring a client on, they have to ask some tough questions. Questions about their money, what their financial status is, what their marital status is. In order to do that, you have to have trust. So you have to have permission to ask questions. And I'll take this to a high level. I'll say, Scott, what if I have a question I don't want to ask you because it's kind of one of those kind of risky questions? Should I keep it to myself or go ahead and ask you the question? In 25 years of using the Sandler selling system, people just say, go ahead and ask it. So it allows me to go deep because the person in control of the questions is the one in control of the sale. Traditional selling, the salesperson always is the one answering questions. So we give the questioning technique back to the salesperson, like a detective would have. The only goal of a detective is that he or she showing up at a crime scene is to get to the truth. In order to get to the truth, we got to ask some questions. Some of the questions might make you a little uncomfortable. To teach this is hard because a lot of salespeople don't want to do this because they think they're being rude. And this is another reason why we have to know that bring it back is that prospect to DIS or C. You can bring it back into that stuff. Once you're reading somebody, you know how to ask the questions. These are the tools that we give you. So,
and when you're training, a whole company's worth of salespeople, I mean, you sit down with them face to face, and you do some role playing and kind of walk through a questioning process to get them better at asking those kind of questions, don't you?
Well, that's part of the process. Yeah, we typically when we go into a sales organization, we do some metrics first. We test. We run the DISC, for example. We have some other assessment we use, and I go back to the stakeholders and I say, typically you might have out of 10 salespeople, you might have 3 that are not trainable. Okay, and you might have 3 that are highly trainable. We're going to run some assessments. We're going to take the 3 most trainable people first because that's how you're going to get your ROI out of this. So we start slow. We take people in waves. That's how we do it. So it's a model that works.
Sense. Very, very cool.
Yep.
Well, cool. Well, what's your 5th and final tip then, Scott?
Something that's near and dear to me is something called the post-sale step. I came from an industry where it would take 3 to 6 months to close a sale because I was closing on business or taking business away from a competitor. And when you do that, the competitor generally comes back with an 11th hour deal right after the contract was signed with you. And there was a high level of cancellations. In spite of that, I did really well. And when I got involved with Sandler, my coach said, what's your post-sale? Basically, the theory is there's always a possibility that somebody could have buyer's remorse. And you have to rehearse that with the buyer up front. And the psychology of Sandler is we have to have an adult conversation. I can't get into the whole psychology of Sandler in 5 minutes, but basically the child is the one that did the buying. The adult has the one that has to be the one to give the permission to the child. So to eliminate buyer's remorse, we want to offer gently the new client that just wrote you a check the opportunity to back out while you're still with them. That way, when you drive off, you're not going to get one of those terrible phone calls that says, Scott, we need to cancel. Something came up. I've changed my mind. So offer them a chance to back out. And part of the post-sale process is say, hey, Scott, at some point you're going to look back on this decision to use me and my services, and I know you're going to love it. When you're at that point, would you be comfortable if the 2 of us go out to lunch and maybe you refer me some friends of yours that might benefit from my service, right? So the post-sale is also a place where we plant the seeds to get the referrals as well. So that's just offer the prospect a chance to back out, and they never will. And in the rare case that they did, you're right there with them. You don't have to get those annoying voicemails where they were just trying to cancel anyway, and they never return your call. Yeah.
Now, just coming back to DISC for a second, are there any personality types that are more prone to trying to back out of a deal like that? I mean, how does DISC play into the post-sale technique?
I would say that would be your S's because they tend to be they're low risk takers, and their decisions need to be made by committees. If you're talking about selling into companies, and they don't want to they don't want to rattle the cage. And if they were overweight in the decision-making process, somebody might say, hey, we can't do that, or I know somebody else. Or your C's will say, hey, did we do enough analysis to bring that in? So let's imagine you've got a complex sale and the CFO wasn't involved and he or she's a high C, which they're going to tend to be. hey, I found out that there's this other company over here that does the same thing for half the price.
Right.
Yeah, I would say your S's and your C's are going to tend to be the ones where you would need to post-sell the hardest and the most. The I's and the D's, the quick decision makers, they just want to get it done and move on, realizing that there's always going to be a potential that, hey, a D says, a decision, even if it was the wrong decision, was better than no decision. That's how a D feels. Just make the decision, move on. And if you made a mistake, you learn from it. That's how D's make decisions.
That's
and to
awesome.
a large degree, I's do. Yeah.
Very good. Well, those are great sales tips. Thanks very much for that. So, folks, what have we learned on today's show? We know that people are very different, and talking to them the exact same way and dealing with them the exact same way probably isn't going to work out. So knowing something about this DISC method is really, really important. Big special thanks to my guest today, Scott Bailey. Scott, how can people get in touch with you?
Well, I've been here in the business for 25 years. We're in Orange County. It's Santa Ana near the Embassy Suites. My email is Scott, SCOTT.Bailey, BAILEY, at Sandler.com. Scott Bailey at Scott.Bailey at Sandler.com.
Fantastic.
Want to communicate today.
There you go. That's Scott Bailey. And that's it for me, folks. Until next week, this is Scott Robertson, host of May the Best Brand Win on Intertalk Radio. Have a great week. Thanks. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.